All right, so welcome everybody. So I'll invite you to find a contemplative position that works for you. We're just going to do a little bit of grounding, and then we're going to read a little bit of tarot. So if you want to stay seated, stay close to the screen, you can do that. If you want to lay down and then take a look later, you can. You can keep your eyes closed through the whole thing if you want to. It's just nice to look at the cards together when we get to that moment. So let's just take a moment to find whatever that shape is for you, and whether you're seated or laying down, feel free to add your pieces of support. And I will say, including for the recording, just gather your props if you haven't already. We're going to do a little bit of yen at the beginning of our practice today. So if you have bolsters, blankets, pillows, stuff like that, they may come in handy. If you don't have anything, don't worry, we'll work it out. And nice to have a journal nearby as well, for those of you that like to have that in your practice too. So just taking a moment to get settled, whatever that looks like for you. And you can take a couple of deep breaths. And just notice if there's some movement that your body is needing. So that might be small fidgets, it might be big stretches. There's no right or wrong, just taking a moment to kind of allow your body to come to a relative stillness. And just to kind of drop in to this particular moment. This particular physical space that you're in right now, on your mat or your carpet, whatever you've got. In this body that you have today. Acknowledging the ground beneath you. This wide, old earth that we all share, wherever we may be practicing from. And acknowledging also the land that we practice on, wherever that is in the world. I'm on Plains Cree and Blackfoot land in Treaty 6 territory. And just noticing your relationship with that land, personal and historical, generational. And part of that relationship is how we connect to the phases of the moon, which is part of what we're doing here. We're allowing ourselves to tap into this particular moment in time, how the light and the seasons and the tides and the weather have a relationship with our bodies and our hearts. And so we're coming to a new moon that I'm currently quite excited about, because it happens to fall on Imbolc, which is an ancient holiday celebrating the midpoint between the Winter Solstice and the Spring Equinox. This is also Groundhog Day. It's also Candlemas. With the new moon itself, it's also Chinese New Year. So it's this real moment of shift in the wheel of the year. It's a moment when we really move into the changing of the light. And with the new moon on top of these holidays, we're getting an extra boost of change, which I feel is needed. We've been in a very dark moment, which is right for being in the deep winter, and Imbolc is the moment when we move out of the deep winter into kind of the early spring. So the energy begins to shift a little bit. And so, you know, I'm really thinking about hope and, you know, sort of what the light may bring. And I've been working with the cards quite a bit this week, and there's a lot for me around the stories and the perspectives that have been kind of keeping us in the dark, and allowing those to change on Monday, Tuesday, when we actually come to the new moon. So we're still in that dark moment, but the light is coming, and we're maybe starting to feel that shift of light a little bit today. So just take a moment to notice how that's landing for you. If the way that I'm telling the story is kind of resonating for you right now. Just taking a moment to be with this particular moment, just the last few days of the waning moon, leaning into that really dark moment before the light shifts. So I'm going to share today's card that I pulled for this just particular moment in time. So when and if you're ready, you're welcome to open your eyes and just take a look at what you see on the screen. So as most of you know at this point, my favorite way of reading tarot is really, it's called process focused or process oriented tarot. So that's something we do together. It's not just me telling you what the card means. So just take a look, and I would love to know, if you're comfortable unmuting and speaking up, what do you see or feel when you observe this image? What do you notice about it?
I notice wonder and curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonder and curiosity.
It looks like she's surrounded by darkness, but there's lots of light about her, and maybe she's even looking up to the source of light.
Let's bring it a little bit closer too. So sometimes it's a bit hard to see the details. These cards in particular, it's called the Dream Keeper's Tarot, and they're always a little vague, which I love about them. There's a lot of space for interpretation, but they're sometimes a little hard to see.
Does she have a sword or a walking
stick? She has a
stick
sword,
or a weapon?
Yeah, it's a sword.
Oh,
it's
okay.
the page of swords here. Yeah.
Because it's like she seems very vulnerable and alluring, but she also has this weapon to protect her.
Yeah, I
So
see
sexy.
the sort of wonder, but I also see that she keeps her sword in her hand. She's cautious.
She's kind of standing on a little stump in the middle of a pond.
Yeah.
Well.
It's interesting though, I don't feel threatened by that.
You
know, it feels, even though it is a precarious moment, I still feel quite a bit of strength, I think, is what I would say.
And I see it as
strength at the same time for me.
Say that again.
As her being just, kind of in a deep hole, for some time in darkness, and she's actually striving and willing to work her way out of it with, to do that, but actually she has some form of protection as well in moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
I also notice, I mean, she's on solid ground but she is surrounded by, water, or by less solid, it could be pretty easy to tip into that pond, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems like she's waiting or trying to listen to something or hear something. Yeah.
Yeah, I see listening is the first thing I thought of with this one as well. She's got kind of her finger up to her ear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A definite light coming through those trees. Like that forest looks like it isn't quite as dark, in front of her, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, very similar to what you guys are all seeing. Listening is the first thing I noticed, and I'm sort of feeling like this figure is sort of at an interesting point in her journey. So as you said, like, she's sort of on solid ground, but the ground around her is not so solid, and it's not necessarily clear where the next step is that she's going to take. But instead of pushing forward, she's listening, right? She's pausing, and she's taking a moment to really like see what resources are available around her that she's not necessarily seeing. And the Page of Swords, so pages are a little bit like the Fool, in the sense that they're just at the beginning of a journey of learning. And swords is, I've had so many swords come up this week. It's just like stories, mental stuff, like what are you thinking? And a lot of the time swords are there to remind us that so much of our pain comes from our perceptions and our expectations, and not necessarily listening to our hearts, our bodies, and what's really sort of true around us. And so, if you guys have been, you probably got, most of you, my newsletter yesterday. Like, I've been in a little bit of a dark place. It's been a bit dark, around here. And it's been a helpful reminder to just kind of pause and think about, okay, well, how am I telling the story? Or like, what are the, with swords, I always think of core beliefs. Like when something stressful happens, what are the stories you tell about yourself that aren't even, you don't even necessarily believe them to be true in your head, but those stories that will be like, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'm stupid, like those sorts of negative beliefs about ourselves that just sort of rise up in moments of stress. That's often what the swords is reminding us of, that, these stories are being told, but they're not necessarily reflective of reality. And so, there's often this reminder of, what are you not listening to? What are you not paying attention to? What are you not seeing? Because you're blinded by your own expectations of what you think the world looks like, right? And so I think for me, so many of you pointed out that it's sort of, she's in a dark forest, but somehow in a spot of light at the same time. Like maybe things are a bit lighter than they seem, or there's some light being offered to her. And the sword also can be her weapon. And so we can use our big smart brains to sort of pause and look at how we're intellectualizing what's going on, and maybe make some changes to that, or maybe make some choices about that, and let that be a tool rather than something that's actually harming us. The sword always has two edges, right? It's sort of like a useful tool, but also it could harm us. So we have to be aware of that. And with this coming of the light, I think that that's really, I'm feeling a lot of hope in the coming of the light, that, the shifting of this new moon. And the sense that I get from this card in particular is that there's some listening we have to do before we take that next step. So, I was kind of thinking about around this new moon, like we can start thinking about our wishes, our dreams, our hopes for this next cycle. But this card is actually reminding me, like, wait a second, maybe don't plan those quite yet. Like maybe don't decide for yourself what that's going to be, but rather take a moment to really listen, especially in this waning moon, like before that new moon comes. On that moment, Monday, Tuesday, I think it's Tuesday, Thursday, February 1st and 2nd. Those are the days when we might start to feel some of those hopes and dreams coming through, but we have to do a listening practice before we can actually make a statement about what it is we want, or what it is that's going to happen next, because we might just get back on that double-edged sword of our expectations and our plans, which in a pandemic, what have we learned about plans, guys? What have we learned about plans? Good luck with those plans, right?
Plan B.
So, plan B, yeah, we could have a plan B, C, D, E, yeah, we could have some other plans. But to not be too attached, right, to what we're expecting or what we're hoping, and let there be some listening instead, right? Some pausing to receive. Yeah. How's that feeling for you guys? Any other thoughts? Yeah, Catherine, you're on mute. It looks like you're speaking, but I can't hear you. Oh, still on mute. There we go.
I'm sort of talking to myself, but yeah, it rings very true. I've been preparing for Imbolc and like thinking of ways to start listening to my body rather than my head. So doing like sound meditation and yoga and massage, and just like trying to find a different perspective, because I desperately want things to change completely, but I know that is just my intention. So really trying to move into the flow of what is meant to happen rather than pushing all the time. And then new moon is not about pushing our intentions out there. It's still listening and yeah, waiting.
Absolutely.
Not
I love
spring
that.
yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's be pages, right? We're not queens and kings yet. we're pages. We're just new on this journey. We don't know all the things yet. We're not sure what there is in store. But there's whenever we're thinking of a page or fool, which that's what it relates to me, it's this leap of faith, right? It's the stepping forward into the unknown. And just trusting that you have the resources you need to go on that journey, even if it's going to be maybe weird or scary or unfamiliar or whatever that might be, but that, you know, you have what you need. You have that sword in your hands to be able to go forward on whatever this journey is going to look like. And we just don't know right now, which is okay. Being in the unknown a little bit. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. So let's move that into our bodies, and we'll do like an embodied practice of listening. So let's start in child's pose. If child's pose isn't your friend today, you could do massage table, which is laying on the belly with a soft prop underneath your torso, like a bolster. And I'll be doing child's pose over here. So lots of different ways to kind of explore this, but the intention with child's pose and massage table is we're curling in towards the earth to receive rather than give out. We're going to be here for a little bit of time. So find the way that this feels most comfortable for you. So child's pose, you don't necessarily need any props, but it can be nice to have them, especially if you're going to stay a bit longer. So toes together, knees wide. You could have a prop like a bolster between your thighs and rest forward onto it. And then just find your arms in a comfortable position. So down by your side, hands by the hips is a variation I quite like lately. Yeah, you're okay, Finnegan. You might want to rest your forehead on something. Ideally, your forehead is in contact with something, so that you can actually rest your head. There's a little bit of equality with child's pose as well, and massage table of allowing the head to kind of drop below the heart. So we're kind of letting go of the mind stuff in order to be in a practice of listening. And then go ahead and take a deep breath. And settle. And let's do a literal listening practice. So this is a mini version of pratyahara, which is a classical meditation practice. So listen, literally with your ears, noticing what you hear. Notice each sound as something that has a beginning, middle, and end. That this sound is a vibration that enters your body in some way and then leaves again. Notice how the sound can actually pull your awareness outside of your body, but then when we receive the sound, it can bring us back. So just imagine that footsteps or the cars going by or the snuffling of a pet or my voice pulls you out of your body, and then you can receive the vibration of that sound and notice how it feels inside of your body without needing to judge how it feels, noticing any emotions that arise, just approaching it with mindfulness, which is just observing with kindness and not needing to change anything about it. So we'll just do that. We'll allow each sound to bring us back into the feelings of our bodies for the next little while here together. Take another deep breath here. And keep in mind you can stay as long as you need to. Okay, otherwise we'll gently make our way out of the shape. So if you're coming out of child's pose, coming to hands and knees and extending one leg back at a time. If you're coming out of massage table, you might take a little prone back bend on your elbows or your hands. Maybe come into child's pose. And then I'd like for us to come into pigeon or some sort of hip opening shape, which I love for the new moon. So I know some of you have your shapes that work best for you. I'm just going to quickly give you an escape route if pigeon doesn't work for you, if it hurts your knees specifically. You can lay on your back and take thread the needle. So my right ankle here is over my left thigh. You can keep your foot on the floor, on a prop, or gently hold on to it. Okay, if you're taking pigeon, you can sit up on your prop, lean over onto your right side, swing the left leg around behind you, and you're just going to try your best to straighten it. I've got 2 blocks here. I'm just going to settle my hips, so I'm trying to square them forward. You can shift forward and back just to find that optimal place, which is some sensation of stretch, but nothing stressful. Okay, it shouldn't feel like the absolute max that you can handle. That's a bit too far. Okay. And then you can lengthen and fold forward. So if you've got the blocks or some sort of pillow or something, you can put them under your chest and or your forehead. If you happen to have 2 blocks, which I know at least, or 2 bolsters, which I know at least one of you does today, you can put the bolster out in front of you, even propped up on the block so that you have a nice soft thing to kind of lay over onto. And then settle into the shape. And again, just looking for that first edge, so that place where there's a bit of sensation. It doesn't have to be super intense. If you're pregnant, you can definitely do this variation of pigeon. And again, just being a little extra careful that you don't overstretch. We won't be here too long. We can continue this practice of listening as a way of coming into the body. But maybe we can practice getting a little bit more intimate with that listening. Noticing the sounds that are really close to the body or inside of the body. So, the sound of your breath, the sound of your heartbeat, the sound of your clothes rustling as you shift a little bit. Seeing if you can keep those sounds nice and close and continue to let them draw you into your body. Each sound a sensation. Let's take another 3 or so breaths here. Feeling free to sigh or make some sound. And then in your own time, you can gently press up to your seat and bring your back leg around to the front, just unwinding if you're in thread the needle or another variation of the hip opener. And usually windshield wipers are nice after most of the hip openers. That could be seated, could be laying down. And I often like to just shake my legs out a little bit as well. I find sometimes that circulation just needs to return a bit. And then we'll come to the second side. So leaning over to your left hip, swinging the right leg around if you're doing pigeon with me, or you're taking your opposite leg into the thread the needle, or whatever shape works for you. And it's okay for the two sides to be different. Sometimes we have different things going on the two sides, and that's okay. So just trying to square your hips, shifting forward or back. Ideally, your whole front shin is down and you have 0 pain in your knee, okay? If you do have pain in your knee, try thread the needle or whatever works for you, which might be Shavasana. You could be just relaxing if this isn't working for you, okay? And then you can place something under your chest and or your forehead. I like both if I have 2 bricks or a bolster on 2 bricks. And then my shoulders can just relax a little bit. And then again, nice deep breath. Just continuing to listen, and maybe here we're still working with that, listening to the sounds of whatever's as close to the body or even within the body as we can. And we might also begin to turn on some listening to, so we've been practicing listening as sensation, right? But we can also practice listening to sensation. So we can allow the sensations in the body and the emotions to be like sounds that have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that vibrate in some way within us. Last few breaths here. Again, a sigh is good. Even a sound. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, you can gently press up or unwind, leaning over onto that left hip, bringing the back leg around to the front. Then you can take those windshield wipers and maybe a little shake. Okay, so we're going to transition into a little bit of a flow. And I want to take a sort of a sun salutation, not really a traditional sun salutation, but I really want to do a practice of welcoming that change in light, but really moving slowly in a way that we can stay with this quality of listening deeply inside of our bodies. So we'll just try to do this with our eyes closed as much as is comfortable and possible. So I'm going to invite you to come to your hands and your knees. And I know a couple of you are dealing with some lower back hip stuff. So just before we move on, just after pigeon, let's just reset the hips. So just come into a nice neutral spine, gently engage your core. Bring your knees together and then take your left knee open to the left on your inhale, and as you exhale, close. And then we're just going to open and close a couple of times like a little clamshell. We're just kind of resetting that outer hip muscle. So we're just kind of floating the knee off the floor on the exhale. My foot is flexed here. I find that helpful. And I'm trying to keep my hips level to the ground. I'm trying not to lean too much to the right. Last one here. And then switch sides. Right knee opens to the right. Just reorganizing those hips. Reminding those outer hip muscles to turn on, make sure they're protecting our back as well. Last two. And one. And then relax. You can give your hips a little wiggle, a little rock from side to side. Good. And now let's start to move into a little bit of a flow. So cat and cow, you can do this on hands and knees if your wrists are a bit uncomfortable, or come onto your fists. We're going to inhale into a little bit of a back bend and exhale to curl under. So if you haven't already, I'll just invite you to close your eyes. You never have to do that if it doesn't feel safe and comfortable for you. But if it does, just allow yourself to kind of be in the cat and cow in a really intuitive way. So go slowly. Maybe you're slowing down your breath a little bit. So just really letting yourself lean into this little bit of movement, this little bit of flow. Maybe you're adding circles or side to side movement. You guys mostly know that I love cat and cow. I like to do it almost every class, partly because there's so much space within it. It doesn't have to be done in any particular way. It's just a really nice way to kind of feel into the body, to be doing that listening. Let's take about 3 more breaths, just exploring here. And then let's come into downward dog. So some of you are pretty comfortable with downward dog. So what would it be like to go into it with your eyes still closed? So you're extending your hands a little forward, a little wide, tucking the toes and lifting up your bum. And see if you can feel into the pose rather than thinking about what it's supposed to look like. Softening those elbows a little bit, hugging them together, seeing what you need to do to support the neck to relax. And maybe we're pedaling the heels, continuing with that kind of exploratory intention, that listening intention, not putting our expectations on what we think this is supposed to look or feel like, but just actually showing up to what's happening in our bodies today. And then when you're ready, walk your feet towards your hands. Again, your eyes could still be closed. Take your feet as wide as feels right for you today. Bend your knees as much as your lower back wants you to. Relax your head. You can rest your elbows on your thighs if that's most comfortable. I usually just like my fingertips on the ground. They could be on blocks too. They could also be dangling if that feels safe. And maybe we're bending one knee at a time, or swaying, or in stillness. That's its own exploratory practice as well. A big message that's been coming up for me this week is trusting in the wisdom of the body in terms of its knowledge about how to heal. So when there's something that we're trying to heal, we can get very intellectual about it sometimes. And that can be super useful in some cases. But sometimes we forget to listen inward. We often know exactly what it is we need to know. We've just forgotten to listen. Okay, so I'm going to invite some rolling up, and we're going to do this a couple times today. So just keep in mind, if rolling up doesn't work for you, bend your knees, keep your back nice and neutral, and just come up with a nice steady spine. Otherwise, we'll let the head and shoulders be really heavy. Bend the knees a lot, lean back into the heels, and slowly roll to standing. When you get there, you can roll the shoulders onto your back. Eyes might still be closed, just noticing how does your body want to stand today. Okay, so slow as your breath. We're going to move through a little sequence. Let's get that angle there. Okay, so next time you inhale, reach your arms up to the sky. You can open your heart a little to the sky. Eyes could still be closed. And then take your palms together, trace them over your third eye, your nose. Point the fingers down and then follow with your nose. So you're actually reverse rolling down. Bend the knees like you're slow-mo diving. And then take a halfway lift, peeking up out of the water. And then step your right foot behind you. Lower your knee down if that feels comfortable. Reach your arms up towards the sky. And as you exhale, take a cactus shape with your arms, letting your chest open. Inhale, reach up. Open the chest, elbows bend. One more like that. Good. And then inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, bring your hands down. Step your front foot back so that you're on your knees. Roll up to standing on the knees. Offer the heart to the sky. Bring the palms together. Take them to your third eye, your nose. Turn the fingers down, diving to the earth, and take a brief little mini child's pose. And then roll back up. Inhale. Hands together, take them over your face, pointing down, diving towards the earth. Settling there just for a beat, and then rolling up again. Bringing the hands down, the face, turning to the earth. Child's pose, and either stay here or come forward to your belly. Point your toes, take your fingertips wide to the right and to the left of your mat. Strong legs and core, lift your chest up, inhale. Exhale and melt. Inhale to lift. Exhale, you might look to the left and dip your right shoulder to the earth. Up through center. And then twist the other way. Up through center. Gently fold to the earth. Take a moment here. Release the arms forward, palms up, forehead to the earth, and just flop out for a moment. Just receive the earth. Let the earth receive you. Surrender. When you're ready, slide your hands to your low ribs. Lift your chest up as you inhale. And as you exhale, press back to downward facing dog. You could be on hands and knees instead of downward dog if that works better for you. Let's take a deep breath here. Eyes again could still be closed. Right leg floats up to the sky any amount, and then step it through to your hands. Back knee lowers, reach the arms up. This time, as you exhale, interlace your fingers around behind your back or hook your thumbs if that's more accessible. We're just gonna take 3 breaths, hugging the elbows together, lifting your heart up, letting the chest open. Imagining that you're just opening the space in your heart for that new light to come in. Okay, inhale after your 3 breaths. On your exhale, release your hands to either side of your front foot and just gently step forward. Lengthen halfway. Exhale, melt. And again, if it feels safe, we're gonna roll up. So you can take more than 1 breath to do that. It doesn't have to be really fast. Just imagine this kind of unfurling as if you're a fiddlehead fern reaching for the light. Eventually your heart tips up, your hands rise. Beautiful, hands come together, trace them over the forehead, nose. Turn the nose and the hands down, and we're diving back down. And then lengthen forward and up like you're poking your head up out of the water. And then the left foot will step back on your exhale. So if I'm going faster than your breath, just catch up in your own time, okay? Don't rush. Reach your arms up to the sky when you get there. 3 cactus breaths. So as you exhale, you're opening the heart. Receiving the light. Releasing the old stories. Trusting your inner resources. Okay, after your 3, reach up and then bring the hands down. Knees both at the back of the mat. Rolling up. Palms together, diving down. Two more times, rolling up. Doesn't matter what this looks like, let it feel right. Diving down. One more time. And you might stay in your child's pose next time you go there, or follow an inhale to your belly. Fingertips just off your mat. Strong lower body, inhale to rise. And exhale to lower. Inhale to rise. Look right, you can dip your left shoulder. Up through center. And then you can dip your right. Up through center. To your belly, full pranam, full release, surrender, palms up, forehead to the earth. Let everything relax into the ground, letting go into everything you do not know. Everything you don't have control over. Okay, and then slide your hands to your ribs. Lift the heart and gently make your way back to downward facing dog, or hands and knees is great here as well. Just take a moment to find your downward dog again. Your eyes could close. Okay, catch an inhale. Your left leg is going to go up to the sky. And step it through. Rising up. And then interlace your fingers behind your back or hook your thumbs. Hug the elbows, open the heart. Maybe open the throat a little. So good. And then inhale. Release your hands to either side of your front foot and step forward. Lengthen the heart forward and up. And then melt. Roll up. Take your time. Let the heart tip up to the sky. Reach the arms up. This time as you exhale, just take your palms together to your forehead, nose, and then heart, staying upright. Maybe eyes are still closed, just taking a moment to feel whatever is happening for you right here. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to really embody that Page of Swords for a moment here. And try a tree pose with your eyes closed. So you might certainly topple over. And some of you might want to use a wall to get into it and then try working away from the wall with your eyes closed. Or you could try coming into it just as you are, depending on how comfortable you feel, okay? So this is, of course, just an invitation, go with what feels comfortable for you. But one of the things that we're doing when we're trying a balance with our eyes closed is that we're trying to figure out, how do I rely on my inner resources and the knowledge I have in my body without looking around, without needing to see, right? So there's pouring the weight into one foot. I'm going into my left foot. And maybe you're just turning the right knee open and allowing the heel to come to the ankle. And then seeing what it might take to slide the foot up a little bit to the shin or even up to the thigh. Pressing the fingertips into each other, finding that sense of midline in your hands and in the center of your body. And just noticing what it feels like to be balancing in space without looking. If you're really good here, you could reach your arms up to the sky. I don't think that's going to happen for me today. If you're working with a wall, maybe you're experimenting with taking your hand away. And the nice thing about tree is if you fall, you'll just stand on both feet. You won't have too far to fall. Good. And then come on out and let's try the second side. So a little mudra that I find quite helpful is fingertips pressing into each other. Just really helps me to find the core in the upper half of my body. And again, we're seeing if we can feel into this. So pouring your weight into the opposite foot, maybe turning your foot open, and just noticing what it feels like for you to be a little uncomfortable, a little unfamiliar, and how easy it is to rely on those inner resources, which you feel in your body, where you know your body is in space through your proprioception rather than through your sight. And toppling is not a failure, it's just a part of the practice. Maybe you're noticing you feel internally really unbalanced, which is maybe where you're at right now, and that's okay. Just noticing that. That's kind of what I'm feeling. And then when you're ready, we'll come out. You can give your hands a shake. Beautiful. Let's reach the arms up. Dive down to the earth. Lengthen up halfway, and then have a seat, nice simple seat. Take your feet about max distance apart. I'm actually going to turn to face you guys here. And then let your knees fall to one side. I'm going to the right for myself. And then you're just going to follow that turn with your body. So my right hand is coming behind me, left hand onto the knee, and I'm just turning open into this little bit of a twist. This is a nice one for pregnancy. There's lots of space for the belly here. Just the whole body spiraling. My left bum is not on the floor. It doesn't have to stay there. And then when you're ready, we'll switch sides. So we're just coming back through center, letting the knees fall to the other side, and we're just kind of following the spiral, letting it move all the way up the spine. And then gently back through center. Release your legs. You can give them a little shake. And let's just briefly fold over them. So you might pull the flesh back from your hips. You might want to sit up on something. You can also bend the knees. We won't be here too long. Just lifting the heart and then folding over your legs. Letting the head release if that feels safe in your back. Okay, and then in your own time, you can gently rise up out of that shape. Wiggle your toes, take your fingertips behind you and hug the shoulder blades together. And then we'll prepare for our meditation or reflection. So if you're seated, you can sit up on a prop. If you would prefer to rest in like a contemplative shape, a nice simple heart opener might be nice, letting the bolster come behind you and just laying back over it, or a couch cushion or whatever you've got. Block works for this too. And just letting the heart passively open. And as we talked about, we're not at the new moon yet. And even the new moon itself is not necessarily the time to make our plans. It's really a time to feel and let go of the last cycle. And then the waxing moon is more so a time for doing stuff. So you can stay in your listening. Receiving what's happening in your body. Feeling, listening, receiving rather than thinking or doing. You're welcome to stay here. Those of you that like to do a little bit of journaling, please feel free to write down any insights that may have been arising for you in this practice today. We'll just take another couple of minutes. Again, feel free to stay as you are, or if you'd like to take a more traditional Shavasana and just rest and receive the work that we've done for the last couple of minutes here, you're welcome to do that. In your own time, let's deepen the breath. Noticing what you may have been receiving in your practice today. You can bring in some small movements and then larger ones. If you're laying down, you might roll over to one side. Gently press up to a seat. And find a place that feels right for your hands. So maybe palms together or over your heart or over your belly. Maybe there's a place where you felt some wisdom coming from today that you want to acknowledge by placing your hands there. And then take a moment to bow your mind to your hands, your heart, your breath, your body, whatever it took for you to get here to your practice today. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that are with us in our practice. Honoring the land that we practice on and sacredness wherever that may be in the world. Acknowledging each other for sharing this practice.